explanation that Jesus is giving about the kingdom of heaven. What's really interesting about this point in the Bible and this point in the Gospel of Matthew is that, and in all the Gospels, there comes a point where there's a massive change in the tone and things start to get really, really serious. And it's because Christ is getting closer to his passion, and all he's focused about is the cross and preparing his disciples, and he's now starting to speak a lot about heaven. And he's trying to explain in many different parables and imagery about heaven and what heaven's going to be like. And in the space, basically from Matthew 23 onwards, there's a lot of imagery there. And the bottom line is, you have to be ready, is what Jesus is saying. It's very, very scary. In the chapter before, there's the 5 wise and the 5 foolish virgins, and they're knocking at the door, and Jesus ends and says, "I don't know you," and shuts the door. So it's starting to get very, very serious. And he's really just giving us all this imagery and trying to give us this understanding of heaven and the expectations that God has for us. So in that context, we have this passage here and that verse here that we're going to focus on. You were faithful in the few. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you guys, what does it mean to be a steward? Can anyone jump in? Don't be shy. The more open we are with each other, the more blessing we'll get. So what's a steward? What does that mean? Timmy, pick someone.
I don't know, I'm trying to think. Is it sort of like someone that is like given responsibility or something?
Yeah, definitely. So a steward is someone who the owner has entrusted with their stuff, basically. So a steward doesn't own the things that they have responsibility over, but they've been entrusted and given that responsibility to take care of it. And in this situation, Christ is giving us the analogy of investing and using and trading with it, and that idea of the talents. So a steward is if you're a steward, you're not the owner, basically. And that's the first thing I want to share. What does that mean? That means that the talents that we've been given and everything that we've been given has been given to us. It's not ours. It's been given to us by God. Everything has been given to us by God. Like it says in James, all good things come as a gift from the Father of lights. Like every good thing that we have has been given to us by God. Absolutely everything. So that means our health, our bodies, our time, our education, everything has been given to us. And then on top of that, like those are the generic talents and gifts, and like we've all heard this stuff before that everyone has. But then on top of that, there are things that God has individually given you, and he's individually blessed you with when he made you. When Jeremiah says that you knit me together in my mother's womb, and we have all that beautiful imagery. It's not like, yes, we're all special, but we're all truly unique. Like God has put a very, very, very unique stamp on each of us. Each of us here have a very unique set of skills and abilities and talents and characteristics that God has given to us. So everything that we have and everything that we are is a gift from God, is a talent from God. And that means that we don't own it, but we've been entrusted to use it carefully. And that's basically what's at the heart of this parable here. And that's the first thing that I wanted to share with you, that we're not stewards, but we're owners. And that means we have to be extremely careful about it, and we have to do what's right with it. Like if I open up a kebab shop, and then I'm going to set Timmy as the manager, and I'm like, all right, Timmy, I'm going on holidays. I'll be back in 2 months. You know what to do? And he's like, yeah, I know what to do. And I come back, and every day he's just making kebabs for his mates. He's not charging anyone. He's just eating, taking ingredients home, taking it to work. Like if I come back in 2 months and I'm like, Timmy, the numbers are not good. Like we're down like $20,000. Like what did you do? Like I'm going to get rid of Timmy, right? Like I would definitely get rid of him because I entrusted him with something that was mine. It was my business, and he literally like ate the business. And that would be terrible if I entrusted him to do that, and he did that. And it's like what's the difference? God hasn't entrusted us with many talents and many responsibilities that we have, and we have to be faithful about that. And in the context of heaven and all those things, like Jesus is saying, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. That's what it starts by him saying that. The kingdom of heaven is like someone who has given all these talents to his steward, to his servant, and he's gone away, and he's going to come back. And when he comes back, he's going to ask for an account. And that is something that's scary, but that's a reality that we have to have. As Christians, as servants, we need to understand that at the end of days, God is going to say, what did you do with what I gave you? We're going to have to give an answer for everything, for all the talents, for all the opportunities that we have. We have to give an account for all of that. And he's going to see, what did you do with it? Did you hide it? Did you use it? Did you trade it? Did you share with others? Did you go to the bankers who represents the church and the priest? Did you ask them how to better use and trade? Like, what did you do with what I gave you? And that's a really scary thing. Like in Hebrews 4, St. Paul is talking about how, coming before the throne of God, everyone is naked before the throne of God, and that the word of God is like a two-edged sword cutting straight to the heart. Like when we are before the throne of God, there is no hiding, there's no sugarcoating, there's no justifying, there's no excuse, there's no asking for more time to repent. That's it. Like when our time on this earth is done and we're called upstairs to the judgment seat, we're not going to have anything to say. It's just, that's it. There's no more time. It's only while we're here and now that we have a chance to use our talents that God's given us and to trade with it. So it's a big warning. And obviously, as we said, it's no coincidence that as Christ is going towards the cross and he's going to earn for us our salvation, and he's wanting to teach us about the kingdom of heaven, that he gives us this really powerful parable. So that's the danger. The first thing that I wanted to share, that we're stewards, not owners. And that means that it's not really mine. It's very easy in this day and age to be like, this is my time, this is my money that I worked hard to get, this is my degree that I earned, like this is my holiday, this is my time off, who are you to tell me how I should invest that? It's very easy to talk about my. Like there's a lot of things to do in life, right? We have to get through school, we have to get through uni, we have to get a degree, we have to get a job, we have to convince someone that is relatively good looking to marry us. Like there's a lot of stuff to do, right? And we're running out of time a little bit. So it's very easy to be like my, and my objectives and my plans and my direction for, and where you see yourself in 5 years, or where you see yourself at the age of 30, what you wanted to have achieved by then. It's very easy to fall into that. But at the end of the day, nothing that we have is really ours. It's been given to us by God. It's a gift, and we have to be faithful over that. The second thing I wanted to share is that, when Christ says you're faithful of the few, like God really cares about the few. Like he really cares about the little things, whether that's good or bad. Like there is nothing that you do for the sake of God out of love that is like ignored by him or forgotten by him, or that he doesn't record that, and that's not very special to God. Like Christ even said, if anyone gives you a cup of water in my name, sure, like that will not be unrewarded. I will definitely compensate that person and reward that person for doing that. So nothing that we do for God and purely, genuinely for him is ever forgotten or overseen by God. Like when you think about it, like you go to work and like you work hard because you want that recognition from, you want your boss to recognize that you're working hard, and so that they can keep paying you, and everything will go fine. And for some reason we trust that our employers and our lecturers and whatever will recognize our efforts and reward our efforts. But for some reason, when it comes to doing things for God, it's much, much harder to believe that what we're doing is not in vain, and that he's not going to reward that. But he does. Like God sees the intentions of our hearts, so he knows exactly what we've done, with how much love we did every act, and what our intentions were. When we really come to God and we say, God, all I want to do is glorify your name. All I want to do is serve you in whatever way that you tell me to do. Like how valuable would that be? Like for us, if and obviously I don't have kids, but like if I had a kid and he or she is just trying to basically just trying to do the right thing, trying to be obedient, trying to be a good kid, wants to just have fun and whatever else, and they come up and they're like, yeah, blah, blah. Like you can't, it'd be so hard to turn them away. And it's the same for God. Like he's our Heavenly Father, and when he sees us trying, it's like us watching a little kid trying to, I don't know, pick up a flower and give it to their mum or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, God looks at our little efforts that are weak and whatever, and he sees that as beautiful. So nothing is forgotten by God. And it starts with a few things like that. You know, when he's saying, you've been faithful in a few things, I'll make you ruler over many. There's also that concept of like spiritual progression. We have to be faithful in the little things if we're going to grow. And that goes for like, you know, the positive and negative side. Like even in terms of fighting temptation, like Pope Shenouda has a really beautiful quote where he's saying that if we are faithful to fight against the sins that are willing, God will help us to overcome the sins that are unwilling. Like those temptations and those issues that are way too big for us, if we fight as hard as we can against the stuff that is in our control, God's grace will cover the stuff that's way too big for us. That's just the way that works. If we're faithful in a few, God will make us ruler over the many. It's, you know, you notice like people in the church, like as they grow up and they start taking more responsibility in the church and they start really like with their hearts like serving, especially after like from pre-servants onwards, and like you see some people like they just kind of like skyrocket out of nowhere. Like you see them, they're kind of like just involved in everything, and everything they seem to touch seems to turn into gold. Every service that they're involved in seems to be like really blessed, and you're like, what? But you know, that's the concept. If you're faithful towards God, if you're faithful over the few things, he will exalt you, he'll build you up, he'll give you more responsibility. Like he's saying, to him who has more will be given. So the more that we work and the more that we cooperate with God and the more that we embrace this partnership, the higher he's going to build us up. Like St. Paul says, from glory to glory. Like that's the goal. While we're here, we should be growing from glory to glory to glory. Like if we're not improving, if we don't see ourselves growing, like that's a danger. We should be, ideally, by the grace of God, we should be excelling like the older that we get and the more time that we're here. We should be investing more in the kingdom of God. But that's going to be very, very hard if we're thinking me, my plans, my time, my whatever. But if we see ourselves really as stewards and we see ourselves as having no ownership over ourselves, then we're in a position to serve. And that, like when we look in the writings of St. Paul, that's always his language. He always talks about himself as, I'm the bondservant of Christ, I'm the prisoner of Christ. I have been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but he who lives in me. He saw himself as, there's no more me, there's no more I. He just wanted to be filled with Christ, and he just wanted his life to be poured out for Christ. Like in 2 Timothy 4, which is the last thing that he wrote before he was executed, he's saying, he writes to Timothy and he says, I'm being poured out like a drink offering, like in the Old Testament where they put the water, the wine, on the offering. Like that's how he viewed his life, just completely empty and completely used out. Everything that was in that jug has been emptied out, and he's saying, that's my life. My life is being poured out as an offering to God. It's funny, I think it was like 8 years ago. You guys know, you might not know Tyrese. Anyone know Tyrese? You're probably too young. I don't know, he went through a weird phase, and then he was posting on his social media a lot of Christian things. And then one day he posted something that like really touched my heart. And I think it simply said, when I get to heaven, I want to be able to say, Father, I used everything you gave me. And I thought like that was really, really beautiful. Like I think, you know, that's the goal. If we can get to heaven and say to God, everything that you gave me, I used it. I used it all up for you. I poured myself out for you. And I think that's the goal, and I think that's the heart of what Christ is saying here. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. I think that's also where like a big power in like, why is like tithing like so important in the church? Like think about it. Like the whole point of tithing is that we are recognizing that whole concept about stewardship, that my money is not mine and I'm going to give it to God. Like it's 100% of it belongs to God, but in his grace he's going to let me basically keep 90% of it. And it's a reminder, like you know the expression like you put your money where your mouth is. Like it's actually really, really hard to do. I remember when I started a new job a while ago, I was speaking to my confession father about it, and he's like, yeah, you know, it'd be a really good idea when you get your first paycheck that you give it to God. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. First paycheck came, none of it worked. Like zero. Like I think I don't know what I bought, but like Yeah, basically I didn't give it to God. But like, it's actually really, really hard to do. Like, we say all these things, but the concept behind it is very, very true, because how hard is it to do that? How hard is it to, like, you know, you see the money in your bank account, you see different progress is happening in your life, but how hard is it to actually offer that back to God and say to him, everything that I have is because you've given it to me? Like, I remember, I think one of the first jobs I ever got was a retail job, and I worked in a watch store, and I remember when I got the job, I was really excited, and I was like, oh, like, thank God I got this job. And I remember one of my friends got really, like, from school, got really, really angry at me, like a full argument, like, what do you mean, thank God? You're the one that went to the interview, and you got the job, and now you're going to start, what do you mean, thank God? Like, they were actually so offended that I thanked God that I got that job, which was my first job. And I remember being like, damn, why'd you get so triggered about that? But we're not used to that in this society, to recognize that everything we have is actually a gift from God. Like, you know, especially when it comes to study, and like, unfortunately in the Egyptian society, we're very fixated on certain academic things, but like, who gave you the capacity to sit down and study? Who blessed those efforts that you put in? Like, who gave you your family situation and the ability to have education? Like, the country that we live in, all of that stuff, if we really look at the heart of things, everything we have is a gift from God. Why is it that we were born in a first world country instead of a third world country? Like, why is that? Like, everything we have is a gift from God. Many, many, many things we had nothing to do with it. It's a gift from God. The second thing I want to talk about is that this concept that Christ is giving us carries over into absolutely everything that we do. So one big thing, and like, you know, what makes us Christian? That's a really, really open-ended question. No one answered the first question, so I'm being optimistic. What makes us Christian? Those are the pre-servants guys. I'll give them a break because they read. All right, I want someone from the pre-servants class. What makes us Christians? Liz, point them out. All right. Someone answer. Our actions make us Christians? Okay, that's good. What else? Our faith in what? In God, yeah, fair enough. What else? What makes us Christian? Many people have faith in different gods. What makes us Christian? What specifically? Big thing right here. The cross is what makes us Christians. The cross is what makes us Christians. What's the whole point of baptism? The whole point of baptism is to symbolize that we are dying with Christ and being raised with him. So we're sharing in his death, and because we share in his death, we get to share in the glory of his resurrection. That's the whole concept, and like St. Paul spends a lot of time dealing with that whole concept. I want to say as well that when Christ is saying you are faithful with few, I make you rule over many, he's talking also about the crosses that we will carry. We have to be faithful with the crosses that we've been given. There are many situations and troubles and whatever, and I'm sure like something, as we're talking about it, something is coming to your mind now. Those crosses that we will encounter in our lives, which won't stop until we're dead basically, we need to be faithful over that. Because God, again, he sees all the pain, he sees all the suffering, he sees when normally it's a hopeless situation, but we still choose to get on our knees and trust that he's there. God sees all of that. So I think as well, when we get to the kingdom of heaven, and he will say, well done, good and faithful servant, you were faithful over a few things, I'll make you rule over many. I think it's also for the crosses that we carry. It's not just the external gifts and service and things like that, but how faithful we are in those times, because there's a really beautiful saying that talks about how suffering and tribulations is the pressure that reveals what's on the inside. Like if you squish like a fruit, like you're going to get all the juices and whatever on the actual flesh of the fruit will come out. And it's the same thing when we go through really, really hard and heartbreaking times. our responses in those situations reveals what's on the inside. And sometimes God will allow temptations and God will allow certain things just so that we get to see where we're at. Like maybe we thought we're at a certain spiritual level, and then we completely stuff up, or we completely find that we are powerless in a situation, and we realize how much we need God. So our faithfulness with those crosses as well, and the more we are united to the cross of Christ, the more we'll be united to him. And St. Paul says that in Romans 8, he talks about how if we suffer with him, we'll be raised with him. And one of the church fathers is like, that's a very big if. Like, how much am I committed? How much do I embrace very, very uncomfortable and tough situations? How much do I actually say, you know what, this is a chance for me to share in the sufferings of Christ? Like, that's not a normal human response. Like, if someone thought that way, it's probably, like, we'd think there's something wrong with them. Like, are you all right? Like, to have that kind of mindset. It's not normal. It's supernatural. Like, when something terrible happens, like someone falls really, really sick, or you have a terrible situation at home, or, you know, whatever it may be, like, and especially in those times where it's very isolating and you feel like no one can understand and no one around you is going through the same thing, God sees absolutely every inch of that situation, and he's there with us and he's waiting to give us strength. But again, it's according to that faithfulness. If we run straight away to God and say, this is way too big for me, and this is hurting me, this is breaking me, this is making me not want to trust you, this is shaking my faith in you, but I'm still going to follow you. I'm still going to carry this cross with you. God will, like, how much will he bless us? How much will he give us the grace to carry that cross, which is far beyond our abilities? There's a really nice saying that every cross has a resurrection. And I think it's very true. I think there's a time period on every tribulation that we go through. Like, God is just and he's merciful. He's not going to let something go on, you know, far beyond our capacity. I think everything has a time limit. And yeah, that's just another thing that we have to be faithful in, our commitment to being co-crucified with Christ, our commitment to sharing with him on the cross. Like, do we have that mindset that, God, I want to die to myself, I want to die with you, that I can be raised with you every single day. For Good Friday at St. Luke's, Abuna Dan gave a really, really beautiful sermon about the thief on the right hand, the good thief, and he was contemplating. He was saying, like what did this thief see that, in a way that none of the disciples were able to? He recognized God. He just addressed him as Lord. There was no like Jesus, Son of David, or Jesus, Son of God, or what. He just addressed him as Lord. Remember me when you come into your kingdom. Like, what kingdom? The man that was hanging, like, from his flesh next to him, drenched in blood and sweat, like, what was regal about that? What looked like a kingdom about that? Like, like, think about, what did he see? And he obviously wasn't living a very good life. And even when they were first put on the cross, he was also reviling and saying the wrong things and making fun of Christ. And then all of a sudden, turns around and says, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Abuna Dan was saying, what has happened here? And he was saying that it's because he was crucified with Christ, and he looked unto the crucified Christ, and in that he saw the glory of God. And Abuna was saying, we will never be able to see God and see him in our lives and grow in a relationship with him unless we are crucified with him. Unless we're crucified with him. So I think it's actually, we always, in youth meeting talks, we're like, oh, that's great, but like, what's practical about it? What's practical about it is that when those crosses come in our lives, we can stop and we can say to ourselves, this is a chance for me to share in the sufferings of Christ. And if we choose to take that mindset, which is very outer worldly, and apply it to that situation, I really believe that God will fill that with so much grace, and he will make us a ruler over many, because we showed that faithfulness. And linked to that as well, in Galatians 6, it says, let us not grow weary while doing good. So, like, on a flip note, like, in our capacity as servants, and in all the things that we do, things that we do that only God knows about, which is those are the most powerful kinds of services. sometimes like it's really, really hard when you don't see the fruits of that service, and you know, you kind of start to get tired, especially if we are relying on our own strength instead of relying on God. We kind of run out of gas. And St. Paul is saying, don't grow tired. Don't get tired when you're doing good. Like, keep going, keep going. And when we think about this imagery that Christ is giving us in this parable of being before the throne of God and him saying, well done, good and faithful servant, you're faithful with a few things, like that, again, it's just more motivation to keep going. I remember Andrew Bruce, he's the Bishop of East Africa. He was giving us a Bible study one day, a really amazing Bible study. And he was talking about this point in King David's life where, like, he'd already killed Goliath, but he was essentially living as a fugitive because Saul wanted to kill him. And then for like one random point in time, just out of like, you know, whatever it was, I don't know if it was desperation, he joins himself to the Philistine army, who was obviously the enemies of God. Like he just jumped the line and basically went to the enemies of the people of God. And so Edmund was saying that, like, what that kind of represented is there's those times when we get tired from living like a righteous life. Like, we get tired of being sons and daughters of God, and we get tired of trying to live at the standard that God has called us to as his children, as servants. Because it is, like, it's very unrealistic. Like, if we're being real about it, it's very unrealistic, it's very hard. I'd be lying if I said that it was easy to live the life that God has called us to. It's the narrow path for a reason. It's taking up our cross every day for a reason. Like, just all the temptations that we have to face in society alone is and all the pressure from that is enough. So to not grow tired of being who God has called us to be, and which is, you know, sometimes we get that way and we're just like, I'm kind of done like fighting this thing that's been going on forever, and I'm kind of done like trying to live this, like, I'd rather just do my own thing or do what everyone else is doing. Like, it's very easy to feel that. It's very normal to feel that way. But let us not grow weary while doing good. Any questions or anything as we're going? Timmy.
Just got, earlier on, when we were speaking about obviously faithfulness and carrying our cross, when Christ says, he goes, you have been faithful in a few things, I'll make you rule over many. How do we find success? Because it almost seems like Christ is saying, I will make you rule over many, like the success is like being a ruler of many, but you know, it almost sounds like it's counter. Like, it almost sounds like, you know, we're always told, like, don't look at the numbers, you know, don't look at, you know, sometimes the fruit could be deceiving in a way. Like, although the fruit come in a different way, but how do we, as Christians, like in service or not in service in our own spiritual life, like, how do we define success?
What do you guys think? Anyone else have something to add on that? What do you guys think? It's a very good question. Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. I think especially, you know, like when we're young, we don't really understand these things, and we don't understand, like, there's a lot of depth and growth that just happens with time and certain experiences that God lets you go through. But yeah, definitely at the beginning, like, you know, it's like very, very hard. But as you grow in spiritual maturity, I think everything is dominated by your love for God, and you will, like, I think that's what makes us very valuable tools in the hands of God. When that's all that we care about, because then He can mold us as He wants, and He can use us as He wants, and we'll find that we're doing certain things that, like, it's kind of completely unstructured. Like if you look at like the early church and the way that like the missionary trips of St. Paul, and just the way that they served, it's not like, you know, like, okay, we're doing it because this is the weekly schedule. Like, they just went where the Holy Spirit told them. Like St. Paul would be like, okay, like it would say, like in Acts, like the Holy Spirit said, don't go here, don't go, like go there. It's like, okay, no worries. And like, go and heal that guy over there. Go to this house and you'll find that person waiting for you to do that. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's a different, you're operating on a different frequency almost. Like when we're doing everything out of love for God, and we're asking Him to lead us and use us that way, it definitely takes a different, like, feel altogether. But I think, as Jonas said, it's very normal, especially if we don't have that love for God. You know what I mean? Like, which is, it's something that grows. It's a relationship, like any other relationship. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of communication, a lot of love, and how do we show our affection to God? Like in the Song of Songs, which I'm sure you guys have come across, really, really beautiful poetic book written by King Solomon. And it's all about this love story between the Shulamite woman and her bridegroom, which is Christ in the church. But even more importantly, it's Christ in the individual soul. And it's very, very intimate, and like the imagery in it, like the early church, even the Jewish scholars didn't know what to do with this book, because it was like considered so inflammatory. But in that chapter, there's a chapter where the Shulamite woman is inviting the bridegroom to come to her garden and to eat of all the fruits. And like Abuna Anthony Masih had a really nice commentary, and it's kind of like saying that the way, this is a generalization, hope no one gets offended, but the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And she wants to show her love and her affection to him by saying, come and enjoy of all this garden that I've prepared for you with all these fruits, and it's so beautiful, and the flowers and the scents and whatever else. Like, and it's the same thing like that. That's how it is when we serve God. We are like wanting to offer Him something, and it's a gesture of love. It's a gesture of affection. It's not like, oh, this is my duty. Abuna gave me this thing. I have to do it, otherwise I'm going to get yelled at every single Sunday. Like it's not. There's a completely different level to it. But exactly as you point out, I think it really comes down to love. And if we're talking about faithfulness, as Christ is mentioning here, and that's the most important thing, having that faithfulness to God, because all through, it's not just like the Song of Songs, but all through the Old Testament, that imagery is there. Like, there is God as the Father, there's God as the Shepherd, there's God as the Savior, there's God as the Redeemer, but there's also God, the Bridegroom, who is espousing Himself to us. And there's so many points, especially in the Old Testament, where God is really coming down on the people of God, like basically calling them harlots and calling them whatever, and like, you know, I have come and I have redeemed you to myself, and I've given you absolutely everything, and I've clothed you, and I took you from this disgusting place that you were and redeemed you into myself, and now you're going and you're playing the harlot and you're giving yourself to idolatry and whatever. And like all like that kind of language is all throughout the Old Testament, and we have to have faithfulness to God. Again, it's a relationship. We have to have fidelity to God. Our hearts have to be completely His, because if they're not completely His, then there's something else there. There's something else living there, and we can't have it as a dedicated throne where God can rule from. So having that loyalty and faithfulness to God is definitely the most important thing. And I think the more faithful we are over the more objective things like service and how we use our time and things like that, then naturally our love for God will increase. They're always hand in hand. I think it's impossible that we come with genuine intentions, like, oh, God, I want to serve you. God, I want to interact with you a bit more. I want you, to you, like, in Ephesians 2, it says that God has prepared good works for us to walk in. So it's like, think about it, you wake up, and that day, God has already planned and made a way for opportunities for you to serve Him, and for you to glorify His name, for you to serve someone else, for you even just to put a smile on someone else's face. I remember last year I was really, really, really blessed. I got to go to Jerusalem, and then straight after that I got to go to Kenya for some time as well. And like, when you come back from a trip like that, you're kind of on like a massive spiritual high. And I remember, like, I think it was my first day going back to work, and like I kind of like said something like that to go, oh, like, yeah, and like kind of didn't really mean it or understand or whatever. And then I found that there was so, like, it was beyond coincidence. Like, there were so many strange opportunities and conversations that happened, and like little detours in your day that actually led to something like that gives you a chance to serve someone else. And like if we ask for that stuff, like, why would God say no? That's the stuff that He wants us to ask for. Like when Jesus says, whatever you ask in my name, I'll give it to you. In my name is like, in accordance with what is right as the master, which is the whole point of stewardship. Like we're using it for the master's purposes. If we're asking Him for stuff that's according to His purpose, of course God will answer those prayers so powerfully. So like, what would happen if we wake up every day and we say with all our hearts, like, God, please use me to serve you today. Give me a chance to serve you today. Please, God. Please give me a chance to put a smile on someone's face today. Give me a chance to hear your voice today. God, when I sit down and I give you, even if it's just 20 minutes, God, if I give you 20 minutes sitting in your word, let me hear your voice and let me get a message from you for me today. Like, if we dealt with God in that way and we decide to be faithful of those little things, like how, like my confession father used to say, when you wake up, don't leave your room without praying. Like I used to tell him that, like, I was really struggling, and I think he said it as a joke, but he was also being serious. He's like, if you wake up and you don't pray, don't feed your dog. And I was like, what, don't feed my dog? He's like, yeah, don't feed your dog. And I was like, okay, and he's like, and if you're going to go to bed and you're not going to pray, you have to neglect your dog. And I was like, well, I'm not going to. But like, like, think about it. Like we have such a sense of responsibility and about other things, but when it comes to giving God 5 minutes before we actually put our heads on the pillow, it's so hard for some reason. But if we're faithful over those little things, like Christ is saying here, how is He going to bless our spiritual life? What's our spiritual life going to look like when He makes us ruler over many? And as Liz said, ruler over ourselves, ruler over the things that is beyond our control. That's when we really see the grace of God, when we do that. Does anyone else have anything to add, any questions or disagreements or something? Anything? No? DB? No? Fair enough. All right, glory be to God.
First, just like to thank Dave for joining us tonight and blessing us with the very important topic, being faithful. On the topic of faithfulness and service, we've actually began a food service where you can prepare food for your fellow youth, and we've had, I think this is the third group tonight preparing food for us. If you'd like to have something to be faithful in, as we discussed, you can join this food service if you're interested. Either there's a link on the youth chat, or alternatively you can see Bassam or myself. In other announcements, we also have tomorrow night, a couple of us are interested to go to the noodle night markets in the city. It's tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the city. The details are all in the youth group, so just have a look there. And if you are interested in going, just put your hand up in the group so we can gather numbers and figure out travel and whatnot. Also, next week we have the camp, so there's actually no youth meeting, unfortunately, but we'll share words and we'll have a great time there. If you haven't registered already, it's not too late. The early bird special actually ends this Monday, so register on his Vine as soon as you can. It's going to be really good this year, and the topic is the earthly and heavenly tents. So yeah, make sure you get in there. Also, Sunday we have soccer. Last week we played in Birmingham Lane. It was more of an outdoor field, and it's free, so you don't have to delve into your savings. $5, it's a bit much. We also have Tazbaha on Thursdays, so yeah, feel free to join us on Thursday nights. Other than that, anything else? After. One other thing, we have a couple of new faces today, and as Cosman tradition goes, there's a couple of questions that need to be answered, and it's a bit of a tradition that we do. So it's three things. What's your favourite ice cream colour? Flavour? Your favourite ice cream flavour? Your greatest fear? And your pet peeve. So for pet peeve, it's like something that really annoys you. I didn't know what that word meant either. So I think we'll start with, have you said it before? I don't think you've said it before. You sure? Did you say it last time you were here? But did you say it last time you were here? I don't think you said it last time you were here. Well, I'll get a cordless mic, 1 sec. Yeah, so start with your name, and then the 3 questions. You can stand up as well, just to embarrass yourself.
Hi. Okay, it was ice cream color. Ice cream flavor. Caramel is my favorite. What was the next one? Oh, pet peeve. Oh, I have a lot. My top pet peeve is if I let someone go in front of me when I'm driving and they don't say thank you with their hands up. That really irritates me, because I don't have to let you in front of me, so that really irritates me. And what was the third one?
Your greatest fear. You don't have to share if you don't want.
My greatest fear. Oh my God, what's my greatest? I don't know, but the first one that came to my mind was snakes, because I actually hate snakes. Like, I'd rather kill myself than be around snakes. But yeah, okay. Yeah, they were good.
I don't think you shared it last time with us.
No, I didn't.
No, feel free.
I have to get away with it. All right, so my favourite ice cream colour is brown.
Let's start with your name.
Name's Anthony. So yeah, favourite ice cream colour is the golden one. It's the salted caramel. Pet peeve. When someone's phone rings in the liturgy and they have the audacity to answer it, especially when it's during the sermon, like, hello.
St. Barbara's represent. Our youth meetings are on Sunday nights, 7 p.m, just saying.
And then what was the last one? Greatest fear.
Your greatest fear.
Greatest fear. I think... Oh no, that's happening in November, don't worry. Greatest fear, I think that would be my brain decaying before my body does.
Oh, dementia, yeah. No, that's not fun. I think we have another couple. Grace, have you done it? Alright, we'll start here and then we'll go to you, Grace. I don't think you've done it either, Dave. You have?
Hi everyone, my name's Marette. I'm boring. My favorite ice cream is vanilla. French vanilla from Connoisseur, particularly. That's the best one. Fight me. Anyways, yeah, okay. Anyways, my biggest fear is heights. Like, don't take me like on a bridge, like anywhere. Like, I'll probably cry. And what else? What was the last one? Pet peeve. Pet peeve. Oh my God. Okay, so this is a weird one, but I hate people that like microwave tuna. Like at work, it stinks up the place, and then like Like, who even does that to seafood? Like, that's inhumane, in my opinion.
Hopefully we don't do it in the cans, because, yeah, causes some mad sparks. Angelique, have you done it? You sure? Feel free.
Okay, I'm not new. Everyone knows me. So, do I have to do it? Okay, I'm Grace. You all know that. My favourite ice cream is chocolate. I just like chocolate. I just love it. Why are you laughing at me? I don't get it. What's the other question? Oh, there's so many. My brother is my pet peeve. And he puts the TV on so loud at night. It's so annoying. And what's the other one? No, like mathematics. Like sitting in a maths exam really gives me a lot of anxiety. So, yeah, I'm the other side of the brain.
She loves her brother, yeah, I can guarantee you that. Other than that, the food, there's food after this, so, and it's ready. We're just going to take a group photo and pray. And there's also Orban, so. Thanks, guys. We'll just stand up for prayer. Movie. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, God.
Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for this blessed day. We thank you, God, for this beautiful gathering, Lord, coming together in your name. We thank you, God, for the reminder that you've given us today, Lord. We thank you, Lord, for all the beautiful gifts that you've given us, that each and every one of us standing here before you is incredibly special to you, Lord. And you've given each of us gifts and talents that we have to be responsible, Lord. We ask you, Lord, to give us your grace, Lord. Give us your grace so that when we stand before you, we'll be able to say that we used everything that you gave us, Lord. I ask you to please bless each and every one of us standing here before you and everything that's going on in our lives, Lord. All the things that only that you can see, Lord. Please place your hand of blessing on everyone, Lord. And guide us always into your kingdom. Through this session, your Holy Mother, St. Mary, St. Mark, St. George, St. Cosmin, and Damien. Hear us and pray thankfully, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven.